Chapter 1. Joseph Milton Schwartz came into the world just ahead of a blizzard. It was January 3rd, 1996, just days before much of the Washington area got hit by 2 feet of snow. The District of Columbia pretty much shuts down after the kind of light dusting you might find in the bottom of a bag of Hostess donuts, so this actual snowstorm paralyzed the metro area for more than a week. Joe was our third child, and labor progressed so uneventfully that at one point the obstetrician said, "Nothing much seems to be happening for a while. Would you mind if I ran out and bought some tires?" He'd heard about a place with nice prices. While he was gone, Joe decided it was showtime. Jeanne's contractions grew more regular, the nurses wheeled her into the delivery room, and the returning doc got into position just in time to catch the little guy. Dr. Goodyear didn't even have a moment to put on all of his protective clothing, like the booties. I noticed with quiet satisfaction that some of the gore spattered his very nice shoes. We named Joe for my grandfather, who had passed away 4 years before and who had started his life at the cusp of the 20th century in Russia. The first Joe Schwartz made his way across the globe thanks to the professional ministrations of a yenta, who matched him and 2 other boys with 3 girls in Galveston, Texas. The girls' parents wanted good yeshiva students from the old country for their daughters. The newlyweds-to-be met for the first time in Cuba, where the boys were sent to meet their brides. The boys made their marital choices at the gangplank. Grandpa Joe, now married to an American and able to enter the United States legally, took his part in the American story. He started out sweeping the floors in a clothing store on Market Street until he learned English, then moved across the street to a competing store. When the first store failed, he was able to buy the building. He called it Schwartz's, selling pants in 7 languages, but never losing his slight Russian accent. A small man with big blue eyes and an engaging manner, he was loved in my hometown. I hoped that giving Joseph his name might bestow a little of Grandpa's menschy character and sense of adventure. And when I brought baby Joseph back to Galveston for a family wedding and introduced him as Joe Schwartz, some of the older friends had tears in their eyes. In any case, a boy named for a Russian immigrant should be able to deal with a little snow. We got Joseph home a day before the storm. In the snow-blanketed quiet of Tacoma Park, Maryland, over the next couple of weeks, our newly enlarged family of 5 lived on lasagna brought by the neighbors and settled in for our reintroduction to the world of diapers, baby bottles, and sleeplessness. We had been moving around the country as I went from job to job. Jeanne and I had come to New York in 1985 after college, when I'd been hired at Newsweek, and so our daughter, Elizabeth, and son Sam were New Yorkers. Then, in 1993, the Washington Post offered me a job writing about science and technology, so we headed south to a sweet bungalow in Tacoma Park, a common landing strip for writers like me. That's where we were when Joseph came along. Jeanne and I were feeling pretty good about ourselves as parents by that point, semi-pro at least. The other 2 kids had introduced us to what seemed like the entire list of childhood diseases and conditions, accidents and developmental milestones, and we had survived each one. Elizabeth and then Sam had given us a great study in contrasts. Elizabeth behaved as if she had read the same early child development books that we were reading and hit every milestone precisely when it was supposed to happen. She took her first steps on her first birthday, waiting and testing her legs until she could walk with confidence. We were careful, fretful readers of the child-rearing books, which were filled with such helpful and often conflicting advice. They all seemed to deliver one message: you're doing it wrong. The one point we did take away from many of them was to avoid pushing gender stereotypes. Don't force dolls on girls. She's not going to become an engineer or governor if you've filled her head with influences like Barbie saying, "Math is hard." So we jammed our apartment with dolls and toy trucks, girly dresses and building blocks. The fact that she preferred the dolls and loved the pink tutu she wore to ballet were signposts of her own emerging personality. Sam, born 3 years later, was all boy. He seemed to have come into the world with fully developed leg muscles and had an odd kind of density to him that you felt when you tried to pick him up. As soon as he could crawl, he got over to Elizabeth's pile of toys and methodically pulled out every truck. The Y chromosome is strong with this one, I thought, and told friends, he's got a lot of yang.